this was a big year in so many ways. But we also know that, listen, we just realist about things that are going on around us. We're realist about things that are impacting us. And we just wanted to have some conversation with y'all and talk about what we believe are some things on your heart. So we started out with a list of topics. I'm gonna be honest. We started out with a list of topics that was you know, a collection of things that we talked about during this year that we could tell resonated with y'all, but we also want to talk about things that are happening right now in this moment. And so in that vein, we thought it would be important to start with the recent death of Takeoff from the Migos, right? And, when I put the topic list, I'm just going to talk about just how we operate, right? We try to operate with a spirit of collaboration, a spirit of teamwork. We call ourselves the squad. I think that's and I think that's just example of how we get down. You know what I'm saying? And when I put the list together, several members from the squad say, "Hey, can we talk about this on Saturday?" You know what I mean? And I not just can we talk about it. I heard a sense of urgency in people's voices when they say, "Can we talk about it?" And so I just thought we should start there, and maybe let's just go around and just hear people's heart on why folks wanted to talk about it and why that sense of urgency. I'm gonna start with the Dicer.
Yeah. First of all, man, definitely rest in peace, man, and many blessings out to Takeoff's family and friends. And it was a shocker. I think it was very painful to hear. I think it was Tuesday morning, if I'm not mistaken. But um, it's just time out. It's just time out. I mean, we already know what the culture brings. Hip hop culture brings attention to the artist, and you have to be aware of that. You have to have one, hopefully, be prayed up, and you need some protection around you. But it's also about the power of life and death is in the tongue. So I
Mm,
mean, it's hard to watch it unfold every single year
mm,
because that's just how we've been rolling. But it has now become a part of the culture. You're going to put yourself in a position out there where you have either it's money, jewels, or whatever it is, or even just just running your mouth. So, I'm not saying any of that had to do with him dying. I'm just
right,
saying
right.
that's the trend. And
Mm.
so once you know that's a part of it, I mean, you really need to protect yourself and
Yeah,
in the best way. And
yeah.
even though you want to have that extra freedom, you kind of got to know, like, hey, that comes with the game.
Mm, mm. How about you, B?
For me, I've been paying attention throughout the year, and unfortunately, it's almost once a month.
Mm,
You
Mm,
have someone to mourn who is a part of the rap community who is killed, and it's crazy because when our era, you only had two people, Biggie and Pac, was like the main ones that was for years. But
mm,
now it's just like another type of situation where they actually starting to throw a disclaimer out there that to be a rap artist is one of the most dangerous professions. And it's like, what in the
mm.
world we're doing? We're supposed to be just sharing art
mm,
and music, and getting to that type of heartbreak is crazy. It's definitely crazy. It definitely needs to be, a revitalization of a lot of things. Maybe the content needs to change, because not be so aggressive all the time and not be so, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to find remnants of it. We know the solution is Christ, but outside of Christ, it's like some other steps needs to happen for music business execs to really release and put out music that is uplifting and motivating more than just bang bang shoot 'em up, because
Mm,
mentalities is just twisted right now.
mm-hmm,
mm.
mm-hmm. How about what are your thoughts, Raina?
I was gonna say to Paradox, Brother Paradox, a good point. But do they really care? Are they part of the same system that we understand and know very well? You
Mm,
know, we're expecting them to operate how we operate. But from what I know of the music business, because I was literally born in it,
mm,
still witness my family operate in this business every single day. And it's extremely based in vanity, money, what is going to pop, what's going to work. And I don't know if they are really sad about it, unfortunately. Like what Dice said, it comes with the territory. But I was listening to a song by Bizzle. I think it was Hurt and Bizzle King. And he said, everybody want to talk about Pop and Rugas and everybody gangsta. But then when you get hit, every drop of your gangsta dries out because I was personally triggered. Like, let me just say, my best friend was murdered after he got a rap album deal over a dice game.
Mm.
And this is when I was 18, and I was triggered when I saw this video. And I was like, yo, why am I triggered? I'm old now. I thought I was over this. But the thing is it's still happening because it's still the way of the world. We shouldn't expect something different, or we just need to step up. You know what I mean? We need to step up. And that's why it's time for us to step up.
Yeah, one of the videos I saw this week was from Deion Sanders. I want to share this real quick and get your take on what he said to his team. I want to get y'all take on this.
I'm just sick and tired of the consistency of people that are influential to you are leaving us consistently. That's our rappers. Takeoff was murdered in a dice game in Houston, where we're going. So that eliminates all y'all leaving that hotel, because it ain't happening until I give you further notice. So whatever her name is, whoever she is, parents, everybody, they're gonna come to the hotel to visit you because y'all ain't leaving. Sooner or later, we gotta start changing our addresses, guys. That's an analogy to saying, I know we this, but we ain't that. We gotta leave that behind that we once did. And that's what you guys are. Now you guys are Jackson State royalty. You ain't no, man. You're not whoever you were a year ago. You're not even who you're gonna be a year from now, which is a blessing. But you can't continuously do the things you've always done and expect to get the results. It's gonna have to be a change. All of us have gone through drastic changes. Have we, coaches? Have we, coaches? All of us are still evolving into what God has called us to be, and that's change. You cannot kick it with the same dudes you kicked it with. You cannot kick it with the multitude of women that you kick it with. You cannot associate in the same realms that you associate with. You're gonna have to change if you expect change. You can't do it. It's gonna come to a time, they can talk about you, they can mock you, they can ridicule you, they can cuss you out, they can clown you, whatever they want. But you're gonna have to separate sooner or later. You're gonna have to disconnect. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to. So get that in your spirit. I'm sad because it just seems like it's always us.
What do y'all take away from that?
I agree with a lot of it. I talk about it all the time. Coming from the street culture and understanding the street culture, until I removed myself from it, I couldn't see anything different. Like my exposure to everything that goes on with street life, like it's one of those things that takes a hold of you. I'm just being honest with you. And to Deion's point, that's the first thing I said when I heard about Takeoff. I'm like, why is he in the hood shooting dice? You at a local little bowling alley on the balcony shooting dice. You a millionaire. I'm just being honest. Like you should not be there. There's nothing that you have to prove by being there shooting dice with the local, partners in the hood. Like at some point, they can say what they want to say about you, but you are above that. I'm just being honest. If you want to gamble, go to Bellagio and the regular casinos and do like what millionaires do. Like you're not in the same category as them. So I was saddened by just him. I think it's a code, unfortunately, a street code that they feel like they still have to go around the street environment and be a part of it. If not, they're a sellout. And I'm just not a big fan of that. And we know what the music tells you what to do. A key point that Deion said, without God involved in it, my eyes would have never been open. And
Yeah.
Can I say something to what you just said?
Please.
DJ Focus.
Go ahead.
It's crazy because if I could be real, like for a second, it took a long time for me to not want to naturally do the things that I wanted to do that involved the hood and literally people who were really still active and getting in trouble, because that's literally just it. It almost becomes like once you've already had a hunger from it, for it for so long, it takes a long time to get that appetite out. So I wouldn't be surprised if they enjoyed what like it's different. Like you could say, hey, go take this dice game to the mansion in the back or whatever, but it's just not the same as me pulling up on Crenshaw and like, hey, like it's not the same. And for a long time, I had to check myself and go, why do I love this? Why do I love this feeling? Why do I enjoy this when I'm in Christ? So what am I really in Christ? Like, what am I really doing? You know? And I think that's what's harder to understand. It's like, yeah, you've worked really hard to come here so you don't have to be in these situations or these areas, environments where people are hungry and they'll take you out in a minute. You know, we see it all the time. I've seen it all the time. So it just takes a while. And I think he was really young and he may not have been in that place. And that's what's sad about it. You know, is it probably was very natural to him.
Let me ask you a question back to that, right? And I think because this could be a question for many people, and I'm asking this on behalf of some people who may be thinking this, right? A lot of folks will say, "Well, listen, Jesus went to many different places, right? The highways, the byways, the upper echelons, the hood, right? If you're going to be salt and light and take that salt, how do you not go back to some of those places? How do you not spend time with some of those? What do you say? What do you say to that?
I think you have to be prepared. To be honest with you, because that was me. When I first got saved, I really changed my life around. I wanted to go back, and I would go to the corner store and sit on the stoop, just like I would do when I was hustling. And I'm just being honest, like I was trying to pull them in, but they were pulling me back in. So I had to check myself. I think that's a spiritual thing to know where you are spiritually. If you can handle that. Now, if you can handle it, because there are some that can handle it, and be able to do it. But for me, no, I was the appetite to what Raina was saying. Listen, I love the hood. I love the culture that come with the hood. I'm just being honest. And a lot of it is toxic and it's negative, but that was my life. Like you figure until I was 28, 29, before I really turned my life around, that's all I did. That's all I knew. This is what I knew. So I had to retrain my thinking. I had to get more spiritual, which I hadn't tapped into that at all. So it's a lot that comes with that. So I'd say that to say, for the ones who can do it, do it. But if be honest to yourself. If you're being more affected by the hood compared to you infecting the hood, don't do it. Get yourself out of there, because you'll get yourself backslid. And we look 5 years later, and you wonder like, "Hey, what happened to Deacon such and such? Hey, what happened to Pastor such and such? Pastor such and such in the shake 'em up joint, like he was 10 years ago."
Wow. That's good right there. D-Light, I see you.
Yeah, man. I would just say, the word says that we should not be conformed no longer to the world, but we have to be transformed. And in that process of transforming, that means that I have to literally, as a believer, I have to cut myself off from those things that was feeding me and get plugged into a whole new source of life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's what makes us effective, because one thing for me personally, when I came out of the world and I turned my back, I had my dream of trying to be this R&B singer. When I turned my back on that, the Lord was like, I had to change.
I thought y'all knew. Y'all didn't know? Oh my God. What? That's a whole other conversation. I thought y'all knew. Go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, we might have to pull some stuff out the closet.
We're gonna pull it out. We're gonna pull it out, bro.
But what I'm saying is I had to literally unplug from that world, because it was like I woke up to it, I lived it, I breathed it, and the Lord was like, if you want to walk with me, you're gonna have to get tuned to my voice, not those voices. And I think when we get to that point, then God can effectively use us to go back. But the transformation has to take place. If that's not in place, it's going to be really hard. And those other voices are going to be pulling you. Of course, they're going to be louder than the Lord's. You know what I'm saying? Because we haven't attuned our ear to his ear. But, man, just the whole thing with Takeoff, man, I just want to go back to what Raina said, man, just the vanity of the world, man. It's sad. No young man should be dead at 28, man, over some mess like that, And it really hits home to me because, it was in Houston. That's home, so seeing that just really saddens me, but I'm optimistic because of what we have in the space that God has given us. We are that outlet. We are that voice that can go back and we can't change everybody, but God can use us to be that voice to say, you know what, there's something else. I saw a brother, and I'm gonna end with this. A brother, I forget his name, a secular rapper, but he was like torn. He was like, I'm done with this rap stuff, bro. I'm done with it. And I'm like, man, that's open heart right there to receive the truth, because he's come to the end of himself. He's like, this ain't what I thought it would be. So
listen, before we go to break, I just want to say this one point, and when we wrap up at the end, we can obviously talk about some takeaways on all these points. But the one thing that I'm always reminded of when these things happen is that these are the most public views of another loss of life. A public view of a 28-year-old black man, brown man, you know what I mean? Whatever man you want to name. A public view of a loss of a father, a son, a brother, a nephew, or so on and so forth. And a public view, quite frankly, of the machine, right? I've watched a number of radio executives, or record industry executives talk about the machine, as it were. And some of us who've used this language before would say, you know, this is not a bug, this is a feature, right? In other words, you know what I mean? When in programming language, you say, you know, when something goes wrong with the program, like, oh, that's a bug, we got to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah.
No, it's a feature, meaning that this is a part of the design to a certain extent. And I mean, no disrespect to anyone. Man, my sympathies, my prayers go out to all the family, friends, and everyone associated with Takeoff. No doubt about that. As a person who grew up in North Philadelphia, man, I've seen too many friends lost, right? But what the point I'm trying to make is that the record industry executives and whatnot, several have come forth and said, to a certain degree, we know this is a part of what happens because of what we promote. And we have to think about whether we're going to take a stand for something different to change the trajectory. So any closing points, y'all, before we go to our first break?
I got one more thing to say about it.
Yeah.
I saw I'm going blank. You know, not Rev Run, his brother.
Oh, Russell
Simmons. Did you see his take on it?
Yes.
And he said, now is time for the community of the churches. And even though he added Muslim and Buddhist and whoever religion is working out down the street, he did mention Christian, and he did mention doing this in a believing setting because it's positive. It brings out the natural good that we want, you know, in the community. So I like that he said that, but the rest of it was a little much for me. But at least somebody's noticing there's opportunity somewhere else. There's alternative. That's us. Holy culture. Hello.